pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First off is a roll call vote of all members that are present. Barnard?
Yes.
Bilsbach?
Yes.
Claybaugh?
Yes.
Fairbanks?
Yes.
Fralin?
Yes.
Kerr?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
And Morgan. The records show that all city council members are present. There is a copy of the Open Meetings Act posted in the meeting room and is accessible to members of the public at any time during the course of this meeting. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. First item is item A, approve agenda as submitted. B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. D, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on December 21st, 2020 as on file in the city clerk's office. E, approval of treasurer's report of claims in the amount of $458,741.49. F, approval of Boswell report of claims in the amount of $43,693.77. G, approval of write-off ambulance bad debts. H, resolution number 6656, executing the application and any other documents necessary for the Nebraska Department of Environmental and Energy Brownfield Assessment Grant Program for an environmental site assessment of the property located at or near 711 South 6th Street, Beatrice, Nebraska. Is there any item that any member wants removed from the consent agenda? Mr. Claybaugh?
I move that the item listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and are ratified as presented.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Morgan, that all items listed under the consent agenda be approved. Your vote, please. Barnard? Yes. Bilsbach? Yes. Claybaugh?
Yes.
Fairbanks? Yes. Fralin?
Yes.
Kerr?
Yes.
McLean?
Yes.
And Morgan.
Yes.
That is approved 8-0. We have no public hearings tonight. Next is a resolution, Resolution 6657, executing the release and addendum to allocation and access agreement between the city and Centel Corporation regarding long-term obligations and the final amount due from Centel to the city of Beatrice.
I move that resolution number 6657 be passed and adopted.
Moved by Claybaugh, second by Bilsbach, that resolution number 6657 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
So once again, we're dealing with the gas plant that's located at First and Market Street. Kind of an ongoing process to get this property cleaned up. Back in 2004, I believe it's 2004, we entered into an initial agreement with Centel. In there, we basically stated that once we got the site cleaned up and final approval by either EPA or NDEQ at that time, NDEE today, then the parties would join together and look to have a final settlement between the parties for long-term obligations. At that point, the city said they would take on those long-term obligations at the site. So what you have before you is an agreement between the city and Centel that sets forth the city's obligations to take on those long-term obligations at the site for the next 30 years. And in doing so, Centel has agreed that they will pay the city of Beatrice $700,000 to pay for those their share of those long-term obligations moving forward. That $700,000 has to be put into a segregated account to be used only for the cleanup of the site for the next 30 years or until 2050, at which point the covenants on the property cease to exist at that time. So that's the agreement that you have before you tonight.
What's the cost annually, do you think?
We have to have it inspected annually and after every time it floods. The first time we did that, it cost us, I believe, a couple $1,000s. I think that as we become proficient, we can start to do that in-house. We also had to go in, we had to cut the grass and we had to cut down some trees that they had planted down there. We had to do some of that work. The street department was able to do that work for us, and so we were able to handle those in-house. We have some drainage issues down there that we need to address. James Burrows is able to put together a plan so far, so we've not had any engineering cost on that portion of it. So some of the things we've been able to do in-house, otherwise you're probably looking at a couple $1,000s a year, it's pretty typical. And then, there are some things that have to occur probably every 5 years, maybe looking at the riprap and some of those things, make sure they're still in place and still holding up well, seeding some of that stuff. So I'd estimate about $2,000 to $3,000.
Mr. Kerr?
$700,000 in an account, that's gonna generate a little bit of interest over it. Does that go back into that account, or does that go into the general?
Into that account.
Okay.
And we'll look for the best investment opportunities that are out there and try to manage these accounts so that we don't, so that hopefully we can utilize the interest to pay for whatever cost there is. Any other questions?
And that number was come up with, we had our experts look at what they projected long-term cost to be, Centel had their experts look at it, and then you got economists involved and started tuning the time value of money, bring it back to a net present value. So it's not a number we picked out of the sky. We did look at what we thought those long-term costs would be, and then back into today's dollars, what we thought that number should be.
So it's all finalized now, we'll be done, negotiating, everything's done now, right?
I hope so.
As soon as we get the check. Any other questions? All right, your vote please. Barnard. Yes. Billsbach. Yes. Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks.
Yes.
Fralin.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan. And that passes 8-0. Resolution 6657 has been passed and adopted. Next is item B, resolution number 6658, executing the purchase order and any and all documents necessary to purchase 2 Hercules automated side loader garbage trucks with Easy Pack side loader.
I move that resolution number 6658 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by McLean, that resolution number 6658 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
As everyone's aware, in April this year, we take over garbage collection in the city of Beatrice. And so as we're working through that process, one of the first things we had to come up with is trucks moving forward. And while we are acquiring a number of vehicles from sanitary garbage, when we looked at the city stepping up and start taking over garbage collection, also when we looked at all the bids that came in for garbage collection, the one thing that became very clear was the most efficient way to do that is by doing side loading vehicles. So what you have before you tonight is for the city to go out and purchase 2 new trucks. They're 2019 trucks. I believe they're sitting in Kentucky today. They're Hercules trucks. They're sitting on, I don't remember what type of chassis they're sitting on. I think it's in the specs there. And then the Easy Pack is just the brand of the side loading equipment that's actually used on the trucks. And so these 2 trucks, when checking with different references throughout the country that have used Easy Pack trucks, they said they're very good vehicles, have low maintenance. The maintenance that is required is very simple, and the drivers are able to handle most of it. So the first step is to acquire these 2 trucks, get them sent to Beatrice so they're ready to roll, hopefully in March, so we can start training the guys and be ready to start rolling them out in April. We have bids coming in for containers themselves. Those are due back they're due back Wednesday. And so we'll have those bids hopefully coming to you in 2 weeks. Those bids would be for 96-gallon containers. The plan at this point is to give every household in the city of Beatrice a 96-gallon container to be used for their trash pickup. The truck then would drive by, grab this with basically a mechanical arm, reaches out, grabs the container, dumps it in the back of the truck, sets the container back down, and they drive off to the next one without having guys have to get out and actually physically put the trash into the truck.
Container also has a tracking device. If it isn't out there when it's supposed to be out there, the truck will record that. Is that correct?
Correct. What we were looking for in our bid specs that we sent out was we wanted an RFD tag in the garbage containers, so we would be able to keep track of where they're at. As far as you have to go up and you have to physically read it. It's not like we can tell from the office, but we'd be able to tell then as the truck drove by, it would have a sensor on it. It would know that it picked up your trash today, or be able to take a picture and say, we drove by at 8 o'clock, Stan, there was no trash can out. That's why we didn't pick your garbage up today. And so we'll be able to track that and hopefully handle those customer complaints as they come in.
Rich?
And I've had some people ask me about alley pickup. A lot of them have alley pickup, so are they gonna get to continue with the alley pickup, or?
That answer has not been decided in full yet. One of the next purchases we will make will be a route optimization software system. Basically, you put in all the addresses, start running your trucks through there and find out what's the most optimal way to run those. But generally speaking, no, we're gonna get away from alley side pickups. Most everything will be moved out to curbside.
Any other questions?
What's the lifespan of the equipment, you know, the actual side loader? Is it a 10-year?
Usually about 10 years is kind of pretty standard of what we're seeing out there in the industry.
So if you have problems with the chassis, you can switch the equipment to another truck and. things like
Correct.
that. Pretty easy, okay.
Ted?
Tobias, I obviously we have to logo the trucks, and that's not a huge issue. We're not painting the trucks, are we?
No, our plan is not to paint the trucks at this point, no. But yes, we'll put some logos on them, some decals on them, so people know there are trucks. You know, other questions I think that have come up about recycling. Our plan at this point is to continue the recycling program just as it's running today. Once we get garbage up and running, and we know that's running smoothly, we may come back to look to see how we can become more efficient in the recycling department. But first and foremost, people are gonna be most upset if we don't pick up their trash on time, so we wanna make sure we get that one down first before we move on to recycling and seeing what we can do there. Yard waste is another one. We look to kind of run this very similar program to what you have today. We're not looking at big changes there. So, you know, a lot of it will run very smoothly and very similar to what they have today.
What are we gonna do with the old trucks? What's the value of those? Can we get any money back on selling those?
Yes, they do have a resale value. Some of those you will retain because some of the trucks that you're acquiring are roll-off trucks, and so those are different, and so you'll retain some of those. Some of the rear loading trucks do have value, and you'll look to still use those. Some of them, though, will be excess trucks, and you'll look to sell those. And so once we get all our fleet in, and we kind of make sure we know what we have, what we don't have, then we'll look to sell the excess vehicles.
Don't you anticipate at least 4 that you're gonna keep?
Correct. We probably somewhere in that ballpark of 4. You've got the recycling truck as one. You've got some roll-off trucks are another one. You've got a rear loader or 2 that you're going to keep for sure. So yeah, those were definitely ones that you'll look to keep.
Rich?
How many employees total are they gonna take to run these trucks and stuff?
An automated side loader honestly can run with one person.
Do what?
The automated side loader can run with one guy.
And how many of those are you gonna have going through town a day?
2.
2?
You'll still have some rear loading trucks, as you'll have obviously commercial trucks or dumpsters that need to be picked up downtown. We're still working on the villages that are around here and getting those serviced, and so those would take some additional employees. You'll still have the recycling route, that will take employees. So we are working through those numbers.
Any other questions? You'll need to come up, and that's all right. You'll need to come up, state your name and address, please.
Harold Mason, 1300 Lincoln Street. I was just wondering if there was a plan in place to pick up larger items, like does the city have another unit that's gonna pick up couches, refrigerators, stuff that the trash company doesn't normally pick up now?
If I may.
Tobias, sure.
Thank you for the question, sir. Short answer is yes. Today we do have citywide cleanup. As everybody knows, comes out in April and picks up those large bulky items. One of the ideas that I have contemplated and kind of kicked around a little bit is modifying our citywide cleanup and seeing if we can't offer that service on a more regular basis throughout the year rather than taking up just 1 week in April. So that way, if you had a large item you cleaned up in November, you're not stuck holding it until April. Is there a more efficient way we could do that? I've kind of talked to Jason about it briefly. You know, do you take it? I've seen communities where on Fridays, so many Fridays out of the year, 13 Fridays out of the year, they provide it, you have to sign up for it, and at 8:20 is Stan's time, and at 9 o'clock we're going to be at Mike's place, and you just schedule an appointment, and we come by, we pick up your bulky item. That way you're not stuck holding it for the year. We keep those things moving. It also doesn't tie Jason's guys up for an entire week in April. So those are some ideas we're thinking about, and maybe some ways to modify Clean City Week if we can make it maybe more efficient or more user-friendly, so that way we don't have some of those items sit around all year.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen? Answer your question all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. Barnard.
Yes.
Bilsbach.
Yes.
Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks.
Yes.
Freeland.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan.
Yes.
Resolution number 6658 has been passed and adopted in a unanimous vote. Next is an ordinance to vacate lots 1 through 7 inclusive, Block 1, Mary Proctor Green's first subdivision, City of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska. Block 14, Highland Park addition to the City of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska. And lots 6 through 9 inclusive, Block 15 of the Highland Park addition to the City of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska.
I move that said ordinance be given number 21-1, the title thereof be approved, and rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Freeland, that the ordinance be given number 21-1, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number 3 times tonight only. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Barnard. Billsbach. Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks. Freeland.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan. Ordinance number 21-1 by number the first time, ordinance number 21-1 by number the second time, and ordinance number 21-1 by number the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 21-1 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Freeland, that ordinance number 21-1 be passed and approved. Tobias?
This ordinance and the next one go together. If you look at the map up there, we are just west of the Beatrice Country Club, south of the intersection there of 8th, is it South 8th and Oak Street? The red area and then the lot to the south of that and the lot to the west of that, all 3 of those are what's going to be vacated and then replatted tonight. We recently sold the street right-of-ways that were in there. We vacated those and sold those to, is it Risa Zimmerman.
Risa Zimmerman.
Just a couple of months ago. We've been working through this plat ever since then. But then you end up with lots that didn't have street access, which violates your zoning ordinances. This is why we have the replat coming through now. Those lots were all platted back in the 1800s. It's kind of been a farm area, farm ground ever since then. One party owns everything in there. And so the first one you have tonight is to vacate all of the lots that make up that parcel today. And then the second ordinance you have coming through will replat all of those and put them back together. Planning and zoning heard this matter and they recommended approval for it.
Questions? All right, seeing none, your vote please. Barnard.
Yes.
Billsbach.
Yes.
Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks. Freeland.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Ordinance number 21-1 has been passed and adopted. Next is an ordinance approving the plat of the Zimmerman Acres addition to the City of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska.
I move that said ordinance be given number 21-2, the title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Freeland, that the ordinance be given number 21-2. The title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Again, a motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote please. Barnard.
Yes.
Billsbach. Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks.
Yes.
Freeland.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan. Ordinance number 21-2 by number the first time, ordinance number 21-2 by number the second time, and ordinance number 21-2 by number the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 21-2 be passed and approved.
Second.
By Claybaugh, seconded by Freeland, that ordinance number 21-2 be passed and approved. Any further discussion needed, gentlemen? Seeing none, your vote please. Barnard.
Yes.
Billsbach.
Yes.
Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks. Freeland.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan. And that passes 8-0. Ordinance number 21-2 has been passed and adopted. Next on the agenda is the public forum. Purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to the city council for consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by the city council at this time. Any council members have anything for the public forum? Anyone from the public? Seeing none, our next regular scheduled meeting is going to be on January 18th, 2021 in these chambers. And there will be a work session on January 25th at 7 o'clock, also in these chambers. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that the meeting be adjourned at 7:20 PM.
Moved by Claybaugh, seconded by Billsbach, that the meeting be adjourned at 7:20 PM. Your vote, please. Barnard.
Yes.
Billsbach.
Yes.
Claybaugh.
Yes.
Fairbanks.
Yes.
Freeland.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
And Morgan. And that passes 8-0. Thank you, gentlemen.